This is a mid-century Urgos Mantle clock made in Germany. I would think about 1955, but we'll have a look at that. We might be able to confirm that when we get inside and have a look at the markings on the plate. You can see it's pretty dusty. That's been sitting in someone's attic for quite a period of time, I would say. I'll give it a quick wipe so it doesn't make too much of a mess of my bench. I wonder how this case will come up after I give it a light sanding and then polish and wax it. Alright, that's a bit better, I think. We'll have a look at the case first and see what work we've got to do on that. Some scratches here, and also you can see some scratches here on the top. The veneer seems to be in pretty good shape actually. There's no pieces, wait till I do that back up. Veneer missing, though the coating on it is crazed down here, you can see. And then when we turn around the back, we can see someone's had a pretty rough attempt at colorizing it, and I would say that that's what all that grazing is over there. The line runs round there. It's not too bad, but that is pretty atrocious. Alright, so let's have a look. Open the back door. There's the movement and the coil gong. That's the original pendulum bob. So we're going to take the movement out now so we can have a look at it. So the first thing we have to do, of course, is take the hands off. So I'll open the bezel up. We've got a small knurled nut there that I'll loosen. Actually, before I do that, we'll listen and see if the clock strikes correctly on the hour. I'll open the bezel up and I'll turn the minute hand round. Right, that is 6 o'clock, or was 6 o'clock, and as you can see on the front, it's now 6:05. So that's a plus. The strike seems to be working initially. It's always good to get early identification of any problems that you're liable to run into as you get into the movement. Take the knurled nut off, put it in that dish there. Minute hand comes off straight away, and that minute hand has a collet in it. Very nice. I'll show you a little trick about setting up a clock movement where the hands are not pointing to the hour directly, yet the clock strikes the hour. I'll show you a little trick you can do on that, because that's got a collet in it. You can't do it with American clocks or clock hands that just have a square or a rectangle in them. It must have a collet. Alright, take the hour hand off very carefully, fingernails underneath, lifting it up. There it is. Pressure fit, of course, as they always are, well, as they tend to be. I'll do up the bezel and we'll flip the clock over so that we can start taking out the movement. Open the back door. And first up, I'll take out the coil gong. Then I'll change the angle of the camera so that I can get the movement out. Right, this is a nut here we've got to undo. We'll loosen that. Still a bit tight. They normally tend to be. This one looks, yeah. The bolt has been very roughly cut off on the end. That's why the nut won't screw off it easily. Yeah, certainly been a bit mangled. Alright, 2 washes on that, very generous. And let's loosen it. And I'll move the coil gong out once it pulls up a little bit. It's a bit tight in there. That's got him. They have made a mangled mess of that. That's the coil gong. Alright, we'll take the movement out now. Alright, that's got the last screw loose. Now we twist and turn the movement around. Oop, one of the screws there. I'll put that aside for the moment, and then I'll get the screws out of the case. That's a rather clean looking movement actually. Might have an easy run for a change. Highly unlikely, but you never know. What have we got here? Oil. Look at the oil on that, on my glove, and down there. Well, it looks relatively clean, but oily at the same time. Alright, I'll change the camera over and I'll be back. Alright, there's our movement out of the case now. It certainly looks pretty clean. No cobwebs and dust and stuff on it, but there's a lot of oil running out of it. You can see that on my finger there. And if we look at those two pivots there, you can see that there's a fair bit of oil and dirt caught around them, so there'll be a bit of a mess inside, I would think. I'll scrape around that with a piece of pegwood. There you can see the dirt on it, and the same on the other side. Alright, we'll get to that later on. We'll start taking the movement apart now, and first thing we'll do is remove the hammer. It's got a tapered pin in there, so I'll remove that with a pair of pliers. It should go that way, but it's pretty tight. Once again, people feel that they need to hammer everything in, and it makes it really hard for anyone else who comes along behind them trying to clean their mess up to get things out. Well, I think it's been punched over on that side there. Yeah, the back looks alright, but it's seriously been bent over. I'll put some more pressure on it and see if we can move it a little bit. We only need a little bit to get a start. I think that was a little bit, or either that or the pliers slipped off. If that's the case, right, I'll get a pair of lockjaw pliers. The mess that people make of mechanical clocks, and I imagine other things too, when they're under the impression they know what they're doing and they've got absolutely no idea at all. Now that'll have to be tighter, I think, and get a good grip on that tapered pin. That really doesn't want to move. I'll see if I can push it from the other side a bit. Well, I think I'm going to have to cut that off, and yeah, I think I'm going to have to cut the top off and then hammer it out using a piece of, good grief, look at the oil all over me, using a piece of pivot wire. Alright, I'll be back in a minute. I'll clean that mess up and hope we don't run into too many more shocky messes inside here. Once the hammer's stopped hammering, I'll remove the, thank you, it's finished. I'll remove the back cock and the crutch first, because what I'm going to have to do, I've nibbled the end off that tapered pin there, so I'm going to have to file that down because it's been crushed tightly by someone else, and I think that's because they thought that the thing was going to fall out, so it's probably the wrong size tapered pin anyway. So I'm going to have to file that flat using one of my files, and I don't want to upset the back cock or the crutch or the suspension spring. So I'll remove those pieces now. Naturally, the screw would be jammed in, and I'll do the other one to get it started. Alright, now I can use my smaller screwdriver to get that out. Put that in the dish. The other guy out. There we go. Magnetised screwdriver apparently. Now lift the back cock and the crutch and the pallets out very carefully. Out through there under the hammer. I'll hold the... That's got him. Alright. Put those over there and the crutch can go with it. Just check to make sure that the suspension spring's alright. And by the look of it, that tapered pin there's been squeezed too to keep it in place. Dear oh dear, it's disgusting what people's ego think they know what they're doing and making a mess of lovely old mechanical clocks. Absolutely shocking. Alright. Well, I'll have to let down the springs on those because the movement's still rolling, and then I'll file the top of that tapered pin off. Then I'll be able to slide the hammer off. And then I shall be back. Alright, we'll let the mainsprings down now. That's a pretty large winding arbor actually. So our standard number 6 isn't going to fit it. No way near. We'll jump up to a 10 and see. Yep, 10 looks about right. I have a feeling that 8's going to be too small. Alright, so it's a number 10 winding arbor. As usual, put the let down tool onto the winding arbor, tighten it up a tiny little bit to put some pressure on it, put a screwdriver under the click, hold it against the spring and let the mainspring wind down. That one was pretty flat. I have a feeling this one might have a little bit of energy in it. Alright, we'll try that again. Yep, that's relatively tight. Yep, there we go. There it is there. We've now taken all the pressure out of that spring. It's been released. Now, I'll clean up this mess over the back here and then I'll come back.